Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to present some of the work I've been doing the past few years. Yeah, about affective and motivational biases on confidence judgment. Okay, so where is the? Oh, okay, and here I'm going to try to have a pointer. En fait, c'est quand j'utilise la souris ici qui a l'air de stopper le sharing. Je vais faire quelque chose. Ouais, je pense que j'ai évité de toucher la souris, je pense, parce que c'est quand je sens la souris. Enfin, je sais pas, en tout cas, il y a une corrélation temporelle. La causalité. Okay. Well, now we seem to have everything. Okay, good. So as Florent nicely introduced, I mean, I'm originally from the field of, let's say, economic decision making or value-based decision making, which basically the past 10 years has kind of converged into a kind of general theoretical framework to explain general behavior. So this framework kind of breaks down the behavior into a set of fundamental steps. So it is assumed that a behaving agent starts by representing, in a way, its environment. So including external states, are there predators, preys, internal states. So is the agent, for example, thirsty, hungry, chill, and also the set of feasible actions. So from there, the agent attributes a value on each individual option or potential state of action, given the current context. And this value index, how desirable the several state of actions are, conditional on costs and benefits. So based on these valuations, the agent is supposed to select the action that maximizes the expected value, or that can also maybe provide some additional information. So after the action is selected, there is usually a consequence that we're going to call an outcome. So outcomes are evaluated, are consumed and evaluated, and they can be actually compared to what was expected at the evaluation step. So and this comparison actually gives rise to learning. So if it was better than expected, I can update upward the value of the action that I selected, and the opposite if it's less good than initially expected. So of course, we know that this is not the full story. We're not only pure let's say stimulus response agents, but we also have a little bit of awareness about our own thought process. So in a way, we have a set of processes, metacognitive processes, that are able to comment what is going on from the set of representation to actually the actions that we're doing. So actually, this set of so here it's indicated as those commentary processes, metacognitive processes, and they are quite okay. I understand. They are quite general. They can comment, let's say, different type of other processes. So memory, decision making, sensory processes, and in different timings. So, for example, even beforehand, in a prospective way, or in a retrospective way. And so they take different forms as summarized in this table, like judgment of learning, performance estimate, but also you'll see in the retrospective dimension, a lot of those are actually confidence judgments. So how confident people are that they saw the correct thing, that they remembered the correct thing, or that they made the right choice. And actually, so confidence is a pretty handy and nice, I would say, process to work with, because it has kind of a consensual definition across different fields, from psychology to neuroscience and even in economics. And so most people agree that you can formally define confidence as the probability of having made the correct decision, endorsed the correct statement, made the right action, given the available evidence. So, I mean, it's time to update a little bit our value-based decision-making framework and add this little confidence stage here if we want to be exhaustive, so to speak. So, in terms of neuroscience, so I mean, there is again, I mean, decades of research showing that the valuation step and the outcome evaluation seem to be mostly linked to activity. So, both, I mean, at the single neuron level in monkeys, but also with bold signal in humans. So it's been linked to activity in a limbic affective valuation network, so including the ventral striatum, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And so actually that was one of the main topic of my PhD. So I had several papers that contributed to this now well-established association. Now, confidence was originally mostly associated with activity in a large, let's say, a Pareto frontal network, including DACC, lateral, dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, but also a little bit of parietal cortices. So, more recently, there have been a little bit of challenge about this kind of dichotomy with the affective network doing the value stuff and paretofrontal network doing the confidence stuff. And there have been a couple of reports, first investigating confidence in value-based choice. That confidence was associated with activity in the affective network. So this first paper by the DeMartino group in 2000 and Steve Fleming in 2013. But also one of my last PhD paper with Mathias Pesiglione, where we reported that I'm not only confident in value-based choices, but also confident in judgments that could be about value, also not about value. I mean, not most of those are correlated with activity in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And if you think about it, the dichotomy between, let's say, confidence and value seems a bit extreme. First, I mean, in a very folk psychology kind of stance, if you think of the phenomenology of confidence, I mean, being confident is valuable, is pleasurable. I mean, I like knowing what I do. I like knowing that what I did was correct. And usually, being correct or being accurate is also the implicit goal of any task. So, in a way, there is a link between being confident and this kind of value thematics. Second, I mean, it seems like there are a lot of confidence biases that seem to indicate that we really want to be confident, maybe more than we should. And there are indeed countless reports of overconfidence, of wishful thinking, meaning that we really want to be confident. So I mean, and the whole general literature on motivated cognition. So in a way, we are going to have to update a little bit our value-based decision making model. And now, I mean, assume that accept that confidence is not only represented in this kind of prefrontal network, but also in this affective network. And actually, that was one of the findings of a big meta-analysis by Vaccaro and Fleming, is that besides those big usual activities, I mean, if you look more in details into all the papers that investigated confidence, I mean, there are some activities in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex there. Yeah.
Why not taking representation?
I haven't come there. I mean, representation usually. I mean, in my case, I mean, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, right now, I mean, it doesn't fit the direction that I'm going to take, but it's definitely possible that that confidence. I mean, just like learning, you know, impact the whole step. I mean, confidence. From the second slide, indeed, I mean, confidence also qualifies, you know, sensory processes. Am I sure of what I've seen, etc. So there is a link between confidence and representations. Now, the question I want to ask, I mean, given this kind of similar representations of values, I mean, affective signals and confidence, that are there interactions between motivational states, motivational variables, and confidence? Can we actually characterize some biases from those interactions? And so if we want to discuss motivation and biases of confidence, we also have to define what we mean by confidence accuracy. So I'll mostly talk about two rough dimensions of confidence accuracy, which is bias and sensitivity. So bias, or also called calibration, is the difference between my average confidence and my average performance. So, I mean, if I want to be well calibrated, I want my confidence, so how good I think I am, I mean, how correct I think I was, to correspond to the actual accuracy, the actual performance, so how accurate I indeed was. So, I mean, this variable, I mean, the closer to zero, the better, I mean, the more calibrated. If it's positive, I'm more confident than I am actually accurate, so I'm overconfident. And if it's negative, I'm underconfident. And so there are, again, numerous reports that in general, we tend to be pretty overconfident and not particularly well calibrated. Now, sensitivity is how well my confidence characterize, I mean, is a good signal to characterize whether I was correct or incorrect. So there are good and less good measures of sensitivity, but for what I'm going to be talking about, I mean, they all converge to the same results. So I'm not going to make a strong case about this. So you could think of sensitivity, for example, as the confidence that I had when I was correct, and versus the confidence when that I had when I was incorrect. And so, of course, the higher, the better, because I want my confidence to be a good signal of whether I was correct or not. And now there are more, let's say, both principled and less biased measures like meta-deprime that have been developed by Maniscalco and Lowe, for instance. So one of the first questions to address, motivational aspect, I mean, interactions between motivation and confidence is what happens if I try to incentivize, so if I try to motivate confidence accuracy. And so that's the topic of a first paper that I'm going to discuss here that I published during my first postdoc in Amsterdam, notably a very rewarding collaboration with two friends and colleagues at the psychiatry department there, Ruth van Holst and Judy Louis. Sorry, the Dutch pronunciation is not my best. So here is the experiment that we did. So, I mean, after a first fixation cross, participants see two gabors, one on the left, one on the right, and they have to indicate which one has the highest contrast. So after the choice, we provide them with an incentive, and they have to report their confidence in their choice on a probabilistic scale. So from 50% meaning I answered at random, to 100%, I was 100% sure of my answer. And the thing is, we incentivized this confidence judgment. So I'm going to try to describe to you what it means. So actually, after the confidence judgment, we draw a random number that is called the lottery here. So there are two possible consequences of this. So either the lottery is greater than the confidence judgment, or the confidence judgment is greater than the lottery. So in the first case, so if the lottery is greater than the confidence judgment, the lottery becomes a lottery, and we play this lottery, and this lottery is going to decide whether people win the incentive or not. Okay. In the other case, so if the confidence is greater than the lottery, we're going to check actually people's answer, and if the answer is correct, they win the trial, and if the answer is incorrect, they don't win the trial. And so this makes sure that it's in participants' best interest to report the most accurately and truthfully their confidence. So why? Let me give you two intuitions. Imagine your own true signal is, I think I'm 75% correct, for example. So do you have an incentive? Do you have a reason to answer 90 if I think 75? Well, if I answer 90, I will miss all potential lotteries that are, in a way, greater than 75 and lower than 90%. That would give me a higher probability to win the trial than my actual answer. Respectively, I mean, if I underreport, I expose myself to some lotteries that would give, in a way, a lower probability than my true probability of being correct to win the trial. So we explain this to subjects, they play with this, they get a really good intuition about this, and so they know that they must be very precise, accurate, and truthful in their reporting of confidence. And so the key manipulation here is what we propose as incentives. So we have gain trials, loss trials, and neutral trials. So in the gain trial, you can, I mean, if the trial is winning, you can win €1, and if it's losing, you do not win €1, so you end up with 0. In neutral trials, there is nothing at stake, and in the loss trials, you can, if you win, you get 0, and if you lose, you can lose €1. So what do we think can happen here? So there are several hypotheses. I mean, hypothesis 0 is, incentives don't matter. The first alternative hypothesis is that, motivation works. So there are several, let's say, literatures that indicate that, paying people to do a task should, in a way, have an impact. So in economics, it's well known that, reward shifts the tendency of people to behave like, more rationally. And in psychology, neuroscience, I mean, there's now an extensive literature about, mental effort, etc. The idea that decisions have cognitive and computational costs. And so if you don't pay people, they'll be a little bit lazy on their decisions. And if you pay them, I mean, they will put the effort to make the best decision possible. So in a sense, the first hypothesis that motivation would improve confidence judgment, so increase sensitivity, and in a way improve calibration, so correct the bias. So for example, if there is general overconfidence, the fact that there is money to win or money to lose should decrease calibration and get it closer to 0. So the second hypothesis is more in line with the motivated cognition literature, and so I'm going to try to explain this to you. So here I'm going to plot the expected probability to win a trial given certain rating for a certain level of true confidence. So I'm going to start with here, assume that your true confidence is 75%. Actually, if I simulate this with my little, lottery mechanism, this is the probability to win a trial for all possible ratings of confidence. And so you see that the maximum here is 75%. So again, that kind of formalizes what I told you before. So the mechanism makes sure that it's in your best interest to provide the ratings that correspond to your true confidence. Now, if I do this for all confidence levels, so again, for all confidence level, the highest probability to win is for, in a way, the ratings that correspond to the true confidence judgment. But what you can see here is that there is also, the higher, of course, the true confidence, the higher the probability to win. So if I transfer, in a way, if I convert this expected probability to win in expected gains, this is what I have for gain trials and for neutral and loss trials. So what this means that the expected value increases for higher confidence when there is money at stake, right? So in a way, if there is such a thing like desirability bias or motivated cognition or wishful thinking, it's like when there is money at stake, I might want to think that I'm more confident than I really am. Okay. In which case, so it shouldn't do much on the sensitivity, but it should, in a way, increase the bias. So if I'm overconfident, it should make me more overconfident in the loss and in the gain domain, because I really want to be confident, because I want good outcomes to happen to me. Okay. And the last hypothesis is actually the one that we derive from our little, let's say, folk neuroscience model. So again, we know now that there are confidence signals that are kind of in the same region as a value signal, and confidence is encoded as a value signal. So we might expect that there is a little bit of confusion or a spillover, at confidence elicitation, which translates into an affective bias. So in a way, people kind of confuse value signal and confidence signal, which make that it would increase the confidence for gain level and decrease it for loss trials. So this is the set of, let's say, hypotheses that we have and that I just described. So as you can see, statistically, in a way, disentangling between those different hypotheses is just a matter of testing the effect of almost the shape of incentives here. So I can test the effect of the net incentive value, which is this line, and test the effect of the absolute incentive value, which is which would capture the V shape. And this is going to help me disentangle between those different hypotheses. And so without more suspense, this is the result that we have. So first I'll show you the raw results. So those are the level of confidence that we observe for the different incentive conditions. Of course, the incentives are presented after people make their choices. So there is no effect of incentives on choice accuracy. And so on the right, you have the test of the effect of the net incentive value and the absolute incentive value, and so nothing comes out significant. Now, this is the confidence reported by participants. So as you can see, they are much more confident than they are actually accurate, and there seem to be an effect of the net incentive value. So people are more confident in gain than neutrals, and less confidence in loss than neutral. And this is actually captured by our statistical model. There is a very clear and significant effect of the net incentive value on confidence. So now if I look at my confidence accuracy measures, this is what we find on the sensitivity, so captured here by the meta D prime. So when there is money at stake, people are indeed more sensitive. But as expected from the raw behavior, there actually there is an effect on calibration that scales with the net incentive value. So people are overall overconfident. They become more overconfident when they are paid to be actually accurate, and they are a little bit less overconfident if I threaten them to withdraw money if they are less confident, if they are less accurate. So this is actually the gist of this paper, that we find like two sides of the same coin. So if you motivate people to give accurate confidence judgment, it improves confidence judgment in some direction, sensitivity, but it also biases confidence judgment in this direction that goes with, in a way, the affective value of incentives. So again, I want to stress a little bit the kind of paradoxical effect here. So you pay people to be more accurate and more truthful, and in the gain domain, they become like more overconfident, so in a way less calibrated. And when it comes on top of overconfidence, I mean, it's a small effect, but I mean, it comes on top of overconfidence. So in a way, that still gets kind of a significant, that still ends up being some sort of a significant bias on overconfidence. So in a way, we can try to play around and see, you know, if I pay people, you know, several types of incentives, I mean, how can I expect those to play on overconfidence and expected losses? But I think that you got the main gist. So I mean, there are actually 3 or 4 different experiments in this first paper that replicate this and try to really characterize this as an effect of the net incentive value on confidence. Now, next question that we asked is this kind of a motivation interaction between motivation and metacognition relevant for the clinic? So actually, so with a terrific PhD student, so Monia Oven, who is again who was very instrumental in this. So we started by kind of reviewing in general the abnormality of confidence in psychiatry. So we did a big literature review on a lot of different psychiatric disorders, and try to identify you know, cases where there seem to be from the literature some let's say dysfunctions in confidence, and there are I mean signals that it could be. So we actually I mean, and in a lot of those let's say psychiatric diseases, there are also reports that there could be dysfunctions in the motivational system. So we thought, okay, maybe actually something that would be even more powerful could be to directly target the motivation times metacognition interaction. So we actually tested this in patients with a gambling disorder, with obsessive compulsive disorder, and compared this to healthy controls. So the idea is that gambling disorder would have a specific, overconfidence, especially in the gain domain, that would correspond a little bit with the symptomatology that they show. And obsessive compulsive disorder patients, on the other hand, would be like generally less confident, and we're looking for an interaction here with incentives. So first, we checked that indeed our different groups had the same accuracy in our task. And long story short, this is what we observed for the confidence. So in general, the patients with gambling disorder are more confident than others. And it seems to be the case slightly more for gains, but actually nothing groundbreaking here. So in all honesty, this is a small effect with this task, and probably something more to be found there. Now, again, this whole narrative started with the idea that confidence and values share some neural correlates. So can we, in a way, check that this interaction that I've shown you here actually arise from some signal in the VMPFC, as I advertised you. So that was the topic of a paper that recently came out in communication biology, again led by Monia. So we actually did the task in like 30 healthy controls. And so the behavioral results actually nicely replicate what we already have. So there is no effect of incentive on accuracy, nor on reaction times, but there is this small but consistent effect of incentives on confidence judgment. Now, I'm being more and more, let's say, cautious with neuroimaging. So, I mean, before this, we actually started to think about how to translate into a proper, let's say, neural hypothesis, this idea that, there is a confusion or spillover in the VMPFC. So, how can we translate this in our task? So, here we broke down actually the task in two main episodes. So the first one where people see the stimulus and make the choice, and then the second one where they see the incentive and have to report their confidence. So the idea is that at the stimulus and choice, I mean, people start to build their confidence, and actually they haven't seen the incentives. So we should see positive correlation between bold signal in the VMPFC and confidence. And at the same level for all different incentive conditions. Now, if the let's say spillover or confusion theory is correct, the VMPFC should code both confidence and incentives. So we should observe something like this. So both signal as a function of confidence. So the VMPFC should correlate with confidence, but have, in a way, a little boost in the gain domain and a little dump in the loss domain, which is now, which would explain why, if you sample signal in the VMPFC, and you get higher signal for the same level of confidence in the gain domain and lower in the loss domain. So that should translate into a baseline signal that kind of correlates with the incentives, and a similar correlation with confidence across the different incentives level. So at the whole brain level, we kind of find what we expect. So before the incentive and confidence, we have those two positive and negative network that I advertised before. So we have positive correlation in this affective network, the VMPFC, and negative signals in the large in the large prefrontal parietal network. Now, if we look the signals that correlate with incentives, we again find significant whole brain results in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And at the same time, there is also a large network, including the VMPFC, that correlates with confidence. But actually, and I stress this here, so the VMP signal was much weaker than we expected. So we actually performed a region of interest analysis to actually check our kind of neural hypothesis. So at the time of the stimulus and choice, we don't see an effect of incentives on the baseline of the signal in the VMPFC. But we see a significant correlation with confidence for all three levels. So this is, in a way, a signal of confidence being built during the choice period. So in a way, we validate this first let's say, section of the neural hypothesis. Now, at the time of incentive and confidence judgment, first, we look at the baseline of the VMPFC, and here we see, in a way, an effect of incentives on the baseline, which is driven by the fact that the signal in the gain domain is higher than in the neutral and the loss domain. So contrary to our hypothesis, we don't necessarily see that the loss domain is specifically lower than neutral conditions. And when we look at the confidence signals across incentives at this time point, we see a very nice correlation in the gain domain, but nothing in the neutral and the loss domain. So actually, this part of the hypothesis and story is wrong. And again, so I want to stress that what happens here is not that we don't have, for example, the statistical power to detect correlations with confidence in the neutral or in the loss domain, because there was indeed a positive correlation beforehand, before people see the incentives. So here, when the fact to reveal incentives actually disrupts signals in the neutral and the loss domain. It kills the confidence signal. So which is something I might come back in some of my discussion slides. But right now, full disclosure, so we have something happening in the VMPFC, which is not exactly what we anticipated, and which might call for actually further investigations. So current results, at the behavioral level, we have very robust effect of this kind of affective biases on confidence judgments. Again, the initial paper had 4 applications. There is one additional in neuroimaging paper. There is also one with the patient paper. So this kind of effect of gains and losses on confidence is somewhat consistent with other papers that reported association with between, let's say, confidence and affective states. So reporting that people are less overconfident when they are worried, that mood can have an impact on confidence, etc. But so those were typically not as, let's say, precisely incentivized and factorially designed as ours. So again, what we find is inconsistent with several other alternative hypotheses. Including the well-documented, desirability bias that is motivated cognition kind of account that here is kind of falsified by our data. And there is, in a way, a bit of an unexpected valence-dependent coding of confidence in the VMPFC. So in a way, when we do our task, we only see confidence signal in the gain domain, and it's disrupted in the neutral and in the loss domain. So in a way, I think it's a good candidate topic to further study, because we have very robust effects at the behavioral level, but still we haven't understood everything. So it's a good excuse to keep working on this, which is what we've done. So here I'm going to move on a slightly different angle on the same question, which started actually from discussions with my economics friends, my economists friends in Amsterdam, because okay, let's talk a little bit about let's say statement, beliefs, and probabilistic judgment. So if you consider the question, for example, will COVID be over by winter 2022? So you can ask to answer in a binary way, so yes, no. You can also ask people a belief statement. So what is the probability that you think COVID will be over by winter, or the likelihood from 0 to 100%? or you can mix a little bit of both, ask yes, no, and then a confidence judgment. And so for my economist friends, these three are kind of equivalent if you neglect the kind of granularity aspect. So for those, all are actually beliefs. But actually, for us, I would say, cognitive and computational neuroscientists, again, confidence. So this last way to ask the question is slightly different because there is in a way a metacognitive aspect of it. So there is a second order belief that comes into play. So that raised the question. So this kind of motivational effects that we've seen on confidence, I mean, are they really specific to this metacognitive aspect of confidence, or are they actually more general of any probability judgment? So, I mean, is it more, let's say, the neuroscience reasoning that's correct, or more the econ reasoning that is correct? And so this is the main topic of a paper that we're currently writing. So with a PhD student, Maël Salem Garcia, who is finishing his PhD in Geneva, and with Sébastien Massoni, who is a very friendly and super nice economist who's now in Nancy. So what we've done, we slightly changed our tasks. So those are still perceptual decision-making tasks. So this is the very famous random dot kinetogram task. So where people see a cloud of dots, where one majority of dots is moving consistently toward one direction, so either the left or the right, and the other is just moving randomly. And participants have to identify which is the dominant direction of those moving dots. So in this case, we have actually one set of participants that do the self-generated decision, so they can answer, well, left or right. Then we highlight that decision. Then there is the incentive, and so which will again manipulate in the exact same way as the first paper I presented. And they have to then report their probability, I mean their own estimated probability of being correct. So here we used a 0 to 100% scale, and you'll see why. And we try to emphasize that below 50% is I think my choice was wrong, and above 50% is I believe my choice was correct. Now, in a second treatment, so this is a between subject experiment. Actually, we selected a dominant direction and two participants. So, and then they saw the incentive and had to judge what they thought the probability of correct it was. So, I mean, considering my previous slide, you see that the first case is really the kind of standard confidence elicitation, and the other is more like a belief. So, how much do I believe that this statement that I didn't produce is correct? So, well, there are a lot of little, let's say, experimental details about this. So, especially how we selected the choices. So actually, we selected the choices in the observed decision to correspond to actual participants' performance. So from another pool of subject, and so they knew this, etc. But I mean, it's not super important for the conclusions here. But I'm happy to come back to exactly how this was set up. So what do we observe? First, let's, as usual, check that we're in a good situation to address what we want to address. So on choice accuracy, of course, there is no effect of incentives in either the free choice or the observed choice task. And again, we're going to check this with this regression analysis, checking the effect of the net incentive value or the absolute incentive value. And now this is what we observe on the reported probability of being correct. So in the free choice, we nicely replicate our original results. And in the observed condition, so there is a small but significant effect. That is, I mean, depending on the task that we've done, like between 2 and 4 times smaller than the one observed in the free choice. So again, there is no effect of the absolute incentive value. So the kind of motivated cognition aspects are out of the picture. And so there is this net incentive effect that seems to predominantly affect confidence when people made the choice themselves. So this confirmed what we had. So then we thought, okay, what's so different between this kind of probabilistic judgment over my own choice versus observed choice? So one hypothesis that there is an agency or motor execution effect. So we designed a new condition in which we actually took the observed condition, but forced people to actually make the choice that we had selected for them. So in a way, it's the observed condition, but we add a motor aspect on this. Okay, so then we can check whether we recover the motivational or incentive effects. Another hypothesis is that there is something about being the one who made the choice. There is kind of a commitment or ownership effect. So we designed another condition where actually in the first session, participants make decisions. And in a second decision, we take their choice and we replay them. So they know they are the one who made the choice, but they are in a way in a setup where they observe the decision that they themselves made before. And again, the task is as usual. So again, here we have kind of the observed decision setup, plus the fact that people, in a way, are the one who made the choice beforehand. So what do we see in those cases? So again, we check that the accuracy, there is little going on in both those new conditions, in the forced and the replay condition. So there is, sometimes that happens, a slight, a small but very significant effect of absolute incentive value on replayed choices, but it's not a big deal. And this is the reported probability of being correct in those two new conditions. As you can see, there seems to be again a trend of this kind of affective bias on confidence judgment. So if I compare this to actually the free and the observed condition that we had before, you can see that the effect on the free condition is still much, much higher than the one that we have on the forced and the replayed. So in a way, we haven't recovered those incentive effects. So agency and, in a way, choice ownership do not explain the difference in incentive effects between, let's say, beliefs and confidence. So as summary, we have this kind of very strong, and here I say specific, which is a bit of an overstatement, but a strong net effect value on probability ratings, especially on free choice versus observed choice. Again, this is very different from what was observed before, and notably in the desirability bias or motivated cognition literature. Seems to be, not driven by the motor aspect of the choice or the choice ownership. So currently, we're thinking, it must probably arise from the mere process that links, a choice, how the choice is built, and confidence is built on this choice in this whole dynamics within one trial. And so my current favorite hypothesis that we are starting to test now is that the incentives that we have here, so gain versus loss versus neutral, actually modulate how confidence build on choice congruent versus choice incongruent evidence. So in a way, if we want to be very well calibrated when you estimate whether you think you're correct or not, you should look at the evidence that says how much you're correct, but also the evidence that say how much you're incorrect. And actually, both this type of evidence should be equally weighted in if you're ideal. But actually, there could be actually an imbalance. And so, Okwon Low and Megan Peters have recently reported that people overweight choice congruent evidence and underweight choice incongruent evidence. And actually, so framing incentives as gains exacerbate in a way the framing on the correct event. You can win money if you're correct, right? And so that could actually overweight be as an experimental manipulation that overweight congruent evidence that goes with the choice that people think are correct. On the other hand, losses, you can lose €1 if you're incorrect. And this kind of loss frame actually could increase the weight increase the framing in a way on the incorrect event and probably then choice incongruent evidence. And so this choice congruency actually really matters when one does the choice actually, and actually is kind of disrupted when people observe other choice or have, play in a different setup that kind of arbitrarily broke this relationship between choice congruency and confidence. And to get back to actually the neuroscience bits, we observe again confidence signals only in the VMPFC, and I think that could be quite consistent with the idea that the VMPFC not necessarily encode confidence as a whole, but choice congruent evidence, which again would be the dominant part of confidence in the gain domain and not necessarily in the neutral and in the loss domain. And so this is something that we're starting investigating now, and put this kind of verbal model into actually a more computational model that can make the precise predictions, and at least verify those kind of verbal predictions. So this is my last slide, and I think I'm almost on time. So I think we've robustly demonstrated the existence of affective and motivational effect on confidence judgments. So something that I didn't really talk about is that, for example, the fact that providing incentives to report confidence can improve the sensitivity of confidence judgment is hard to account right now with the dominant models of confidence. So how we could, in a way, after a choice, increase the precision on the report of this choice process is currently, I think, kind of hard to explain, for example, in the first order or second order model of confidence, as, for example, proposed by Fleming and Doe. So this is pretty relevant also for incentivization and elicitation. So, if you're a decision maker, you want experts to make a prediction, and you actually care about their predictions being precise. So you want to incentivize the precision of those predictions. So in a way, here what we demonstrate is that if you promise them, more money if they are precise, you can actually bias them. So the relevant weights on how incentive improve and bias confidence should be carefully evaluated. And I think that what it means is that even though you can frame them in exactly the same way, so a probabilistic judgment from 0 to 100%, so like first order belief report versus confident judgment have different mechanisms and different biases. So we also have worked quite extensively on the same kind of biases in reinforcement learning. So when people have to learn which of two options are best, learning by reward versus learning by punishments. And we see that, so here is an exemplary set of learning curves. So we see that people learn to choose correct options in both gain in green and loss in red. But if you concomitantly evaluate their confidence, they end up being much more confident in the gain domain and in the loss domain. So this replicates in like a very different task, not perceptual task, but reinforcement learning task, with potentially numerous consequences. So we are also right now trying to fill the loop between learning biases, confidence biases, and also how the fact of being like subjectively confident in choices can impact the way you integrate new evidence. And so a couple of maybe provocative perspectives or just line of thoughts. So this is all permitted by the fact that in our quite sophisticated cultural setup, we can really easily equate gains and loss domain, right? So plus €1, minus €1, that's the symmetry is evident. Probably, this gain versus loss symmetry is not really relevant in ecological context, right? Where let's say positive events are getting some food, mating, etc. Negative events, so threats, are usually like extremely salient, so risk of death. So maybe there is also a fundamental imbalance in the way we've been in a way wired to treat, let's say, gain context and loss context. And the second, maybe provocative perspective, which is usually more directed at my economist friends, is that given what we've seen on the difference between the motivational, the effects of incentives on beliefs and confidence, things that we see generally like over-optimism and overconfidence that are even usually conflated might actually have different roots and different remedies. So it might worth really trying to nail down more precisely what those mean. So I'll start by acknowledging all the people that have been involved in this work, the funding that made it possible, and I'm of course open to questions and remarks. Thank you.
You have questions? I can start perhaps. So in the first experimental result that you showed, there was also an improvement of the confidence and sensitivity.
Yeah.
And then you focused on the bias. So do you have ideas about what could be the neurocomputational mechanism that lead to this improved sensitivity when there is incentivization?
No, and that's what I said. On my conclusion slide, that I think it's currently not trivial to plug this into the current models of confidence, because again, in a way, if you assume that people can just in a way read, let's say, variables that have built during decision making, it almost means that you can improve the precision of those decision variable ex post, after you made the choice. So in a way, so it's something we've not focused now, but I think is a good setup also to start even thinking of how incentive work. In general on cognition. So this whole literature on mental effort and computational cost, etc. So here I think it's a good case where we have motivational effect on something that we could try to characterize computationally, but right now I'm a bit puzzled, and I'm actually open to all suggestions about how that can be framed in a satisfactory way. Yes.
You seem to be considering models where there is a single accumulation of evidence. And with Lucy Charles, we propose that there might be multiple such accumulations, some of higher level than the others, and that's how you can detect that you're making an error. Not just having to wait longer, but actually comparing what one accumulator says, maybe at a higher conscious level, with one that is already responding at the motor level. So I wonder whether that could be a valid suggestion here.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the word attention, but I think in my experience, when you change the incentives, you change attention.
Yeah.
And maybe that would also explain paying more attention to the higher level accumulation.
Oh, it's very true, because so all of this is also pretty relative. So the effect right now the effect of incentive that we have, we don't actually know if it's if we really improve participant performance when there is something at stake, or if just they stop caring when there is nothing at stake. So actually, we still made a couple of checks that confidence judgment in the neutral case validate some properties that we would expect from confidence judgment, so they nicely correlate with the probability of being correct, etc. But so where it plays a role is indeed an open question. But so with Valentin and Viard, we're currently also thinking of projects where you can think of two main effects of incentives, right? So one would be I can raise more resources to code the same variables, so I can actually decrease noise. But the other one would be something much more, in a way, mechanistic through attention, etc. So it's just a more central processing system that really goes into that direction. But all those results, so right now, so we haven't pushed this much, but I think they raise interesting questions in terms of, indeed, how motivation work. Right now, what we've mostly done is the effect of motivation on X, Y, Z, but what does it mean to incentivize something? I think, I think that's an interesting direction for future research that we are currently trying to put on paper.
If I can have a second question,
yeah.
but this is a broader one.
Yeah.
I wonder whether you think there is any relevance to confidence in education,
Yeah.
First of all, just to clarify a little bit, we know that French kids have a very low confidence capacities for the same. Well, actually, right now decreasing capacities, but even for the same capacities, we think that compared to other countries, they are very low confidence.
Yeah.
And so, can you change that?
So maybe first on the consequences. So I mean, I know that reinforcement learning is a very different, conceptual different learning than what we mean in education. But still, I mean, what it means here is, we don't have the same subjective feeling of performance, even when the actual performance is equal, when we've learned in a gain context than in a loss context. So in a way, when the feedback was provided as bonuses or as avoiding losses, and so this is so we're also currently trying to extend this a little bit into consequences, for example. So does that mean that then if you have to choose between two tasks, some that you learn in gain context and loss context, would you predominantly choose the one in gain context, even if potentially you are better in the loss context? And if you think in terms of education, that means that let's say I was good in history, but had a teacher that was really into like high expectations and only framing things as not good enough. That could in a way divert me from choosing this path compared to actually another discipline where I'm as good, but where progress is seen in terms of positive reinforcements. So there's still a little leap of faith here that so I have a student who should start working on this in September. But at least in this direction, that seems to be relevant. Also, so something we never really pursued, but we discussed with in Amsterdam with education economists, what it would mean in terms of, for example, framing multiple choice question scoring, right? Because you can have framing in. Usually you don't want only to reward good answers because people can answer. Students can answer that random, etc. But then can they really, at some point, also have a sense of how good they are? And so, what is the best way to balance positive and feedback and negative feedback, so that they are still engaged, but second, that they get a good sense of how good they are in answering different questions. Because the idea, I guess, is to prime further learning when you know that you haven't integrated enough evidence. So yeah, this is a very long and not structured answer, but I think in the broader picture, there are consequences for the way we can think of education and students' relative feeling of performance compared to actual performances.
Based about what you said in the last slide, did you check for any motivation loss, like a subject that lost already a lot of euros, and so it doesn't care anymore about thinking again, or the other way around?
So typically, what we see that the effects are very symmetrical. So in a way, the effect of people who show a great effect of gains also show a great effect on losses. So it's not like at some point people some individuals in a way are stuck in some vicious circle of losing money and stopping things, such that there is such kind of confound. So we could run additional checks, but I think on most of what we've done, so we try to picture the results as transparently as possible. I think that that kind of at least ensure that this is not the dominant part of the results.
Because those are averages across the whole duration of the experiment.
Yeah.
So if you have any, you have subjects who lost a lot versus subjects who win won a lot.
Yeah. So those are, so in economics, those are typically called the portfolio effect. So if you indeed pay all trials, so here what we do is that we pay random trials. So it's meant to people, getting the same level of high engagement throughout the task. But in our experience, yeah, that doesn't change much. So I don't have specific numbers to tell you, but I'm quite confident that that the task is relatively stable and does what it's expected to do.
If I can follow up Stan's question, so we saw in your data that if you bet on your own estimation of your performance, so if you bet on your confidence, well, your estimation of your confidence is better. So in terms of sensitivity, that was the first result that you showed. So yeah, I was also wondering whether there could be implications in terms of education with the intervention with the student to evaluate their own performance.
Yeah.
And also receive feedback on their evaluation of their own performance.
No, very true. Very true. I mean, right now we are. As I may have communicated here, I'm still. I think this is an interesting axis of research. I'm still unsatisfied by the theoretical account that we have of it. So I still want to dig a little bit further in those things. But then, of course, when we have a good idea of how this works, I think the implications are pretty. There are a lot of things that can be done. So what we've, and it doesn't answer your question, but that's also a way for me to advertise what we're doing as well. So what we do also is we check. We're currently investigating how confidence in one's performance impact future learning. So in reinforcement learning. So I can make the same choice with the same performance, but have a different confidence about my performance. And how does this is gonna impact how I'm gonna integrate future evidence in my own choice? And what we tend to show is that the more confident you are, also the more confirmatory you become. So in a way, the more confident you are, the more you start ignoring disconfirmatory feedback and overweighting confirmatory feedback. So there is also this kind of loop that we need to take into account. I mean, a lot of those effects are double-edged sword. So I think we need to carefully. In all specific contexts. All contexts are specific, and all, including in applications, we need to weigh in, what would be benefits of having higher confidence versus also where it could lead us, because there are some maybe effects that are not as nice as we want them to be for high confidence. For example.
I may follow this question a little bit. The work you presented is very technical,
yeah.
But I think it may not be showing the whole picture of what confidence is for. The first thing is, I think confidence is for engaging in the future. So I really like the new things that you mentioned, where you're going to ask whether I choose this task or I choose to learn this, or I just. What happens in real life is that when you're not confident, you get completely discouraged. It's as simple as that, and you no longer engage either in learning or in tasks that you believe are appropriate.
Yeah. So
I think it would be extremely interesting to ask about this choice component, the consequence of confidence. In this case, you may find that it's not really calibration that counts, but being overconfident is actually a benefit. And the second point is also confidence plays a role in the social domain. That was nicely shown by Chris Fritz and by Hanu and so on. And in this domain again, it may be useful to be overconfident. Just because you get social rewards from winning the battle, even if you don't have the right arguments, as we see in politics right now, just claiming that you are the best may be sufficient to gain you some social points.
So on the motivational aspects of confidence, so there is a hugely influential paper by Roland Benabou and Jean Tirole in 2002. It's a very big piece of theoretical work on how we can rationalize, people being, it's rationalizing motivated cognition on self-confidence. And so in a way, they say, well, it may, there are a lot of reasons it might pay off to be overconfident or to integrate feedback asymmetrically to have a nicer version of yourself. So one is a consumption value. So actually, it's I feel good when I think I'm good. So in a way. The second is actually the motivational aspect. So if I want to engage in a future task and I don't know, if I have the means to achieve it, I need to be overconfident in my abilities to engage in the task. And so they have a model that's mostly framed in terms of my present self accounting for my future self. Not doing this, but I mean it's a very nice model. And the last one is the social value in terms of communication value. So and there is a very nice also empirical paper by some of my colleagues, so Joanne van der Velde and Peter Schwardman in Nature Human Behavior in 2020, on how being overconfident makes you better at deceiving others. So thinking that you are better than you are makes you more able to convince others that you are better than you are. And so in a lot of setups where there is competition for resource, you might want to appear better than you are. And in the econ literature, there are a couple of very nice both theoretical and empirical papers on those topics. I saw that the for Chris Fries, it's even more generally metacognition, right? Not confident. Having access to your own decision variables. But it's we haven't started yet to study confidence in social context, but indeed that's also a good direction. Yeah. 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 So maybe you can discuss, but if there is ecological data on this, I was like, when you write a grant, it's always good to say that there is something in the real world that corresponds to what you have.
I was wondering if it's not the other way around. Like, if you are in a good mood, then you are more confident, and like, for example, for depressed patients, they are, we know that they are not very confident in their reaction, etc. And put them down, and then the vice versa.
Yeah. So definitely there are so two things. I truly believe there is a two-directional way here. So most of what we see now, if you think that, for example, a gain context and a loss context change your mood, this is what we show, and this is causal, right? Because we put the incentive and then people change their confidence. So indeed, we see that, okay, so if I'm either worried or in a bad mood because now I can lose something, that would be what happened. Although, I think with our new hypothesis that would slightly maybe change this kind of interpretation. But and for the other way around, so again, Ala Benabou-Tirol, so there are indeed ways to think that you might want to be confident because it would put you in a better mood. But for example, in the reinforcement learning case, we actually document those two directions. So we try to explain how confidence builds from positive and negative reinforcements. And then we also try to explain how confidence changes the way you integrate positive and negative reinforcements. So truly believe that there are two directional ways, and for some applications or research directions, one direction may be more important than the other, but in general, truly believe that those two things are worth investigating.
Well, thank you very much, Maël.
Merci.
Thank you, Minier, for clapping on live. C'est un peu dur de suivre, de gérer les bordels de Zoom en même temps. Je connais pas.
hyper longtemps.
D'accord.
Et j'avais aimé votre travail sur le désir mimétique.
D'accord.
La discussion qu'on avait eue sur René Girard
Ouais.
quand on était jeune.
Ouais.
Parce que j'ai connu Maël quand même.
Alors, il faut
D'accord.
10 minutes pour ranger tout le bazar.
Ouais.
Quand
On
on
se
est pas du
retrouve
tout
dans le
là-dessus.
hall dans une dizaine de minutes.
Ouais.
Non, ça, moi, je connais.
Donc, Jocelyn, il est
Non, mais c'est vrai, et je connais
Non,
d'autres
il a envoyé
personnes
un mail,
qui,
attends.
là, j'ai vu ça ce matin.
et,
Ouais, non,
quand je discute
Il est
avec
freelance,
Sébastien Watson, non,
qu'il-
bon, un grand nom de la
Entre sa famille
récompense et tout, il me dit
et
c'est donc c'est un des
il
most
a-
underrated paper.
Oui, parce que on a
À
un peu
mon
d'accord.
avis,
Ouais, puis
il sera pas
enfin,
super.
en termes de démonstration
Ok, bah,
empirique, encore une fois, enfin, amener des idées générales, mais au labo, on va pouvoir après potentiellement regarder plus précisément comment ça marche, c'est clair que...
Et sur la